Hey everybody, this is herculespetix, founder, curator, docent, and gift shop employee of the herculespetix Academy of Comic Book Studies. Today we're going to be looking at High Roads, a trade paperback collection of the 6-issue miniseries from 2002. This trade was published in 2003 by DC Comics under their Cliffhanger imprint. That's the creator-owned imprint that they acquired when they acquired Wildstorm back in the late 90s. That came along with it. But this is a really fun graphic novel. Surprisingly so, because it's written by Scott Lobdell. I've never really liked anything by him. I read some of his X-Men stuff and superhero stuff. It was whatever. I mean, to be honest, I haven't read much superhero stuff in a long time. But yeah, nothing to write home about. But I gotta say, this is a very fun graphic novel. It's kind of witty and funny at points, and I really liked his writing in this, so maybe I should check out some more Scott Lobdell. Though I have a sneaky suspicion that this is his best, and there's not much more. Call me negative, but that's what I suspect in my gut. Art's by Lionel Francel Yu, I think one of the best mainstream artists, maybe of all time. Not all time, but he's just a really great artist who chooses to, draw superheroes for Marvel and DC. He's so good. His style, it's just amazing stuff. And very importantly, it's inked by Jerry Alanguilan. And this guy adds a lot to Lionel Francis Yu's pencils. In fact, I think this is my favorite Yu art I've seen, and I'm pretty sure Alanguilan's responsible. I'm pretty sure this is a new cover for the trade. Pretty nice. Even though that looks nothing like the woman inside, it's not a very good likeness. Let's crack this open. Oh, I should mention the colors because they're pretty nice. Avalon's Edgar Tadeo. He does the colors. And here's the cover of number 1. Kind of reminds me of that, the guy who did all those movie posters in the 70s and 80s, Peak? With an E at the end? Bob Peak? I mean, Bob Peak's obviously way better than this. Bob Peak was a master. But it just kind of reminds me of the feel of those. I mean, this isn't a bad cover by any means. All the covers, by the way, are solo Lionel Francis Yu art. So the first page, we start off right in the middle of some crazy action. We see our hero, Nick High Road. He's an American soldier. It's nearing the closing days of World War II. And he is just up to his neck in some shit. He's on this ice wall. He's just got this little pick he's clinging from. He's got a dynamite bomb ticking away. It's just like, how the hell did this guy get in this predicament? What the hell is he up to? And we realize what he's hanging from. I love this drawing. This is some great illustration. Apparently in the North Pole, there's this Nazi ice cathedral carved into the ice. Doesn't seem very prudent to build anything out of ice if you don't want it to collapse. But man, that's some nice drawing. Oh, look, you can see him right there. He's so tiny. And this Nazi soldier comes out in the balcony right in front of him. And we realize from his dialogue that High Road, he's kind of a country bumpkin, kind of naive, really nice. And but naivete is his main characteristic. Like, he doesn't curse even. And so the Nazi's shooting at him like from 5 feet away, doesn't hit him. But, we're used to that from movies and TV. What are you going to do? And then the Nazi pulls out a Luger, and now he's aiming right at his head, so he can't miss. And like I said, Nick starts kicking the wall, and it starts cracking. And the whole balcony shatters and falls, and this Nazi plummets to his death. I see some Travis Charest in here. Throughout this comic, there's a lot of different artists I see, but it's still pretty much you. Look at this face here, though, and this. You can see the Alanguilan influence on you. Kind of scratchy. I mean, I know it doesn't look like Joe Kubert, but it's almost like it could be from that school where it's a little rough. Like this face. And that's almost cartoony here. I really like this art. Really nice. And then a Nazi plane comes out of nowhere, starts shooting at Nick. So he notices the machine gun of that Nazi soldier who fell. It fell on a ledge right next to him. So he's got the dynamite in his mouth, still holding on with one hand on this ice pick, and he's reaching for the machine gun. This is just nuts. And so he finally reaches it, turns around, and just totally blows these Nazis away. Die, you ratsy bastards, die. And the plane blows up even. He hit a gas tank, I guess. And then all of a sudden, the wall continues to crack. And Nick falls into the void. That's a great shot from that angle. Really well drawn stuff. Also, too, the great colors for this Arctic scene. So now we cut away, and now it's 48 hours earlier. And I guess we'll find out how Nick got to that crazy predicament. So we see Paris. Like I said, the war is almost over. They're just mopping up the last of the Nazis in Germany. But Paris is already celebrating. They've had a long war. They're like, we're going to win. And man, I love this crowd scene. It's almost like great caricatures. Everyone's doing something interesting and has an interestingly drawn face. Some really fun stuff here. We see these 3 American soldiers. Apparently they're friends with Nick. They're talking about him, talking about what a goody two-shoes he is and kind of mocking him. And they're heading over to a brothel. Supposedly the best brothel in Paris. And then we cut away to High Road. And, he doesn't want to go to a brothel. He wants to go to a real Paris theater review so he can tell his mom about it when he gets home to Tennessee. He's really a goody two-shoes. Now we cut away to that same brothel the American soldiers were talking about, Madame Eugenia's. Oh, sorry, Eugenia's. And here they are. And now we're introduced to our second main character, Sloane. Sloane has just started working there, but she's already bored to tears her co-workers with her tales of being Hitler's mistress. She's always kind of bragging about it. And they're just like, enough already. Enough with the Hitler stories. Fuck. Some of these faces remind me of like Amanda Connor, too. Kind of cartoony, even though they're realistic. So Nick's in the theater. The curtains open. And this little pint-sized Hitler comes out. He's like barely 3 feet tall. I like this. All the Nazi soldiers are wearing high-heeled shoes and garter stockings. And I guess it's just this total parody spoof of the Nazis. He's singing this zany song, and the Nazi soldiers are doing high kicks. Looks like a fun show. I wouldn't mind seeing this show. And later on, Nick goes backstage, to the back door. And he's the only one there. We find out that this actor, Arthur Brombridge, is not very popular. He basically wants his autograph. And Arthur's basically like, get the hell away from me. And he's following him. He's like, well, it would be my honor to buy you a drink, sir, even though I don't drink myself. And he says, oh, you're paying? And he changes his tune. And so they're heading over to Madame Eugenia's. That's Arthur's favorite place to drink. Meanwhile, they don't notice that we see these 4 shadowy figures above, leaping across the rooftops. Sloane's arguing with her madam. She's basically like, shut up about this Hitler business or you're fired. We don't want to hear about it anymore. And we see these four shadowy figures looking in through a skylight at Sloane. It's kind of sad that Sloane is getting drunk. She's drinking. And she's saying, he did love me. He did. But also makes me suspect her character. Like, she knows how bad Hitler is. But she's really just like pining for him almost. I do want to point out just like little touches like this by you. Just that smoke is so great. This very stylized cigarette smoke. Okay, now we're up to issue 2. Another cover. I gotta say, these solo covers by you, I don't like the colors nearly as much as I like the colors inside the book. But I guess he's trying to go for that, like, film poster look, I assume. So now we have a flashback. And we see this, like, silent film cowboy hero in black and white. And then you hear the director yell, cut, turns back to color, and it's Arthur Brombridge. And apparently, just a few years before the events that we saw him in, he was the biggest cowboy star in Hollywood, making millions of dollars a year. But, as you can imagine, he could never make public appearances. He could never go on press junkets, because he was 3 feet tall. It was all through Hollywood wizardry, trick photography. Nobody in America knew this guy was like a midget. Just like the Devo song, she didn't know I was a midget. We do find out from his dialogue that he's a world-class prick. He's just a complete asshole. And he's talking to his agent, Maury. Man, I see like early Kyle Baker in Maury's face here. I love the way he draws Maury. Very cartoony, but it totally reminds me of Kyle Baker. So he goes home to his fabulous mansion. He's entertaining the flavor of the week, probably some young actress who wants to make it. And he's going to give her a part. And this kind of becomes a running gag in the comic. Whenever he's grousing about his life or whining, people around him just be like, well, it's maybe because you're an ungrateful, arrogant, miserable human being. Maybe that's why things aren't going so good for you. Because you're a prick. Little did they realize, though, there's a photographer in the bushes. And the next day, we see the headline from the newspaper. And he's outed as a midget. And basically, he goes from riches to rags very quickly. We see him getting evicted from his mansion. Maury's there. And of course, he's like, how did I lose it all? What did I do wrong? And Maury says, I can sum it up in 3 words, Arthur. You're an asshole. You might want to think about that if you ever get the chance to be at the top of the heap again. Don't treat people like shit. Now back to the present of the narrative. Arthur is leading Nick to the brothel. When they get there, every single person there's, almost every single person there is slaughtered. They're like, what the hell is going on? You know who else I see in here is, well, Kevin Nolan. Sorry, I had a mental prolapse there for a second. And a lot of these faces, I'll point them out later. There's some that are even more Kevin Nolan. But, that's a great thing. I wish Kevin Nolan drew more. But if he can't, I want other artists to draw like him. They hear a scream from the rooftop. It's slow. We see that Nick, even though he's kind of a goofy country bumpkin, he's totally heroic and brave. And he, without a moment's hesitation, he runs up the stairs, runs up to the roof. And all of a sudden, he's attacked a bunch of times. He doesn't even see who it is. It's so fast. Look at this, how he draws it. It's just like an ink swath attacking him. And before he knows it, he's down on his back. And when he looks up, this is so cool. This is rad. He sees these 4 Nazi ninjas. I love the design of these guys. Like they got swastikas on their faces. Though I think Frank Miller did that in Dark Knight Returns. That kind of same thing. But, you know, it looks wicked. And the lead one is holding Sloane. Nick says, put the lady down. And one of them comes up to him with 2 guns and is about to blow his brains out. And then all of a sudden you hear this machine gun fire. I love that panel of this ninja getting massacred. And it turns out it's Arthur. I like how he has this one guy, he's got a gun to his chin. The other guy's got a knife around his neck. And, because the whole time, Sloane has been just like mocking Nick. She's just been saying like, you call this a rescue? What the hell are you doing? So he does this. And Sloane says, unbelievable. He's got a knife. You've got a gun. And Nick's like, oh, right. And pow, he blows the guy's head off. I thought that was a pretty good gag. So the main Nazi ninja, or the ninzi? Nah, I'm not going to try to do that. The Nazi ninja, he leaps across the rooftops to escape, and Nick follows him. Arthur stays behind to take care of this last Nazi, and we find out that Arthur is a pretty kick-ass dude for the guy who's barely 3 feet tall. He just kicks the shit out of this ninja and throws him down this through the skylight to his death, it looks like. I like this lettering here. Kind of interesting. Some nice good girl art here. Dave Stevens would be proud. And so Nick catches up to him and tackles the Nazi ninja on this rooftop. The ninja seemingly falls to his death all the way down into this body of water. I really like that panel too. It really lets you know like how far he fell. It gives you a sense of it. And Nick grabs Sloane before she can fall and saves her. They're about to fall though. The pipe is breaking. And just as they're about to fall to their deaths, Arthur shows up and throws them a clothesline and rescues them. Once again, really nice colors in this. I'm digging this colorist. And that's the end of that issue. We find out at the end of that issue, just really quickly, that basically Sloane informs those two that she took some top secret information from Hitler after he dumped her. We'll find out what that is pretty soon. Another cool cover. Man, I love this splash page. Very Alphonse Mucha. But then the flowers behind it are almost like some awesome hippie poster or something. And just the design of the way she's laid out here on the bed. You can really draw women, you. Draws really beautiful women. So this is a flashback of Sloane, back when she was Hitler's mistress. And of course, Hitler's this total fucking sick pervert adult baby weirdo. No offense to people who are adult babies. I respect everyone's kink and fetish. But sometimes it's fun to make fun of them too. I like this little cartoony thing here, the hearts in his eyes when he looks up at Sloane. So one day she's going through his desk just to find a lighter for a cigarette. She finds this top secret document that says Morpheus's necklace. I think this was some filler page to keep the pagination right. I doubt that you would waste a page on that. So I guess around this time, Hitler starts dating Eva Braun, and she becomes the apple of his eye. So Sloane gets the boot. Hitler basically kicks her out. So she takes that document, and now we're back in the present again. So they get on this train. Wait, did I show it that enough? Sorry, I keep forgetting to do this, guys, because I know the book is, the picture will be splayed. They get on this train. I know this is weird, but this weird train here with all these pipes, this reminds me of Simon Bisley. I'm probably just imagining it. So once on the train, Sloane fills them in. Apparently, there's this necklace called Morpheus's necklace. It's worth like untold millions of dollars. They would be set for life. Their grandchildren would be set for life if they could steal this from Hitler. I mean, they'd never have to worry about anything for the rest, forever. It's kind of a neat design. And so they all kind of fall asleep. They've had a rough couple days. And Nick wakes up and he looks out the window. I love this spread. There's this car full of Nazis with a mounted machine gun just totally shooting up the train, trying to kill these three. I just love this drawing of this car, how cartoonily careening it is. It's just like, just so like dynamic the way he draws this. You can totally feel the crazy speed as they're driving on this rough terrain. And this is a great panel too. Just the car being riddled by bullets. So none of our heroes are hurt, but when they run up to the engine car, the engineer's dead. So the train doesn't have a driver. The Nazis are continuing to pepper them with machine gun fire. This is some really great action. And so once again, Sloane finds herself up on a roof being held by this Nazi guy. So I think this is the same Nazi ninja who fell in the water. He survived. Nick goes up on the roof to rescue her. And I guess up ahead, the Nazis have blown the tracks. So in a minute or less, the whole train's going to derail. I like this. He's such a goody two-shoes that instead of cursing, he says, cheese and crackers. That's his exclamation throughout the comic. And it has a little thing like an old serial. Don't dare miss the next exciting installment of High Roads. And they show all of our characters. And then we meet this new guy. Oki. Oki orders another round. So I like the way to introduce this new character just in this little like last panel. So we'll meet him next issue. This reminds me of American Flag Howard Chaykin era. I'm sorry, Howard Chaykin American Flag era. There's a pretty nice cover. So now we have a flashback and we learn about Oki's past. So Oki was a kamikaze pilot, but he never liked the idea of it. He's kind of whispering to his friend here during an assembly, why are we doing this again? And then I just want to make sure you saw that, okay? And so we see their general basically exhorting the kamikaze pilots to he's basically saying, you will sacrifice your lives for the good of Japan. I envy you, the honor you will bring to your family's names, and you will be rewarded in heaven as great heroes and defenders of our country. But Oki's not really buying it. He's really just like, I don't want to do this at all. So the planes are heading towards this aircraft carrier, and they all start diving into it as they yell banzai. And then at the last second, Oki pulls up on the throttle, and he can't go through with it. He says sorry, but not too sorry. So now we're back to the present, still on top of the train. Nick has got a gun pointed right at the Nazi ninja's head. And then I fucking love this panel, this almost 2-page spread. Look at the car careening over this, I don't know, jumping over this hillock. That is so fun looking. That is great shit. I love that. And once again, I love these colors. Kind of muted. Meanwhile, Arthur's up to something. He goes to his trunk that's in this steerage car. And he's got a plan. Some suspenseful hijinks. So the Nazi car is still driving next to the train. And all of a sudden, one of the train door opens. And Arthur is in his Hitler outfit. And the guys in the car are completely bamboozled. They're like, what the? Why? What? Why would Hitler be in this train? And they're so bamboozled that they crash right into this tree. Another really fun panel. So I guess in the scuffle back on the roof of the train, Sloane gets the gun that they were fighting for. But then the Nazi quickly grabs it out of his hand and is about to shoot her in the head. And then High Road kicks him off the train. So who knows, maybe this time he's dead, but I doubt it. But, Nick almost forgot that the train's derailed. So any second, the track has been blown up. So the train is about to derail any second now. And so they get in the train car with all the horses and they ride off the train. This reminds me of like Gil Kane a lot. Just the dynamic way they're leaping out of the page at you, the reader. Kind of fun. Cheese and crackers, that was close. I'm going to start saying that. So they basically, after looking at these documents, they realize they've got to get to the North Pole. That's where the necklace is, somewhere in the North Pole. They're like, how the hell are we going to get there? This woman overhears and says, hey, I heard you need a pilot who doesn't ask questions. There happens to be one. He's sitting at the end of the bar there. And you know who it is. It's Okie. I like this guy. He's a great character. Issue 5. Another cool cover. And now we have a flashback from Nick Highroad's life. This is a week before he was shipped off to Europe to fight in the war. He's a teenage boy. And his childhood friend comes to visit him. And she is just like the farmer's daughter stereotype. She's corn-fed. And she basically went there to seduce him. She's like, we could all die soon. The whole world's at war. I want you to take my virginity. And Nick is such a goody two-shoes. She's like, well, shouldn't you wait until you're married to do that? But she eventually wins. And they have sex. So I guess Nick isn't as innocent as we thought. He's quite a slab of man meat. He looks good without a shirt on. So now Okie is showing off his plane to our 3 heroes, and they are not... they're very worried because it's a piece of shit. This plane's got holes in it and stuff and parts knocked off. But they got no choice. So they're going to fly with Okie up to the North Pole. Man. I just really love this art so much. I wonder if this Alanguilan guy inked Lionel Francis shoe any more times because I would love to get it. I would love to check it out. The dialogue in this, most of it is pretty funny. Like these guys are bantering all the time, and it's pretty good. We see a little cameo of Hitler, or sorry, not a cameo because he's in it more, but we see he's talking about how he's not defeated yet. Tomorrow, the rest of the world will be in defeat, and my Aryan nation will at last rule supreme over the earth. So he's got some ace in the hole. We'll find out about it soon. So they're flying up to the Arctic. I really like, here's an example of Oki's character. He basically is just like, stop talking to me. I don't like when people talk. And, but Arthur just keeps gabbing away to him. And Oki takes his hands off the controls. And Arthur's just like, oh my God, what are you doing? And Oki just calmly says, cannot listen and fly at the same time. You talk, Oki listen. So I can't fly too. So of course he grabs the wheel again. And Arthur agrees to shut up. So all of a sudden, it's not on any map, of course. They see this gigantic floating island. It looks like a fortress, but in the middle, look, there's a city. All these buildings. And of course, the only thing Nick can say when he sees that is cheese and crackers. Motherfucking cheese and crackers. And then these Nazi planes come out and escort them to the ice cathedral that we saw at the beginning. So they're prisoners. When they enter into the ice castle, this woman introduces herself. Her name is Madame Blanche Noir, which I think means Mrs. White Black in French. And she's got an interesting story. She was a leader in the French resistance, but then didn't want to be part of the losing side. So she joined the Nazis so she could be on the winning team. She figured that they had a better chance of winning. So now she's a total, ally of the Nazis. She informs them that there really is no Morpheus necklace. It's just a code name for the necklace of atom bombs that they've planted around the Arctic on these glaciers. So the plan is that, that floating city, Hitler stocked it with all these pure Aryan-blooded perfect specimens. He's going to blow up the atom bombs, which will flood the rest of the world. And the Nazis will be the last man standing. And now we get the last issue. Another cool painted cover. We see London, this giant wave overtaking London. And Hitler triumphant. Here we see those little Hitler youth kids, pure Aryan stock. Fucking pieces of shit. Look at them, little turds. And she just keeps talking. Shows off the atom bomb. And then Oki frees himself from the guy guarding him. I love this. He throws some shuriken into her face and then pulls out his samurai sword. And he just starts slicing and dicing, chopping off arms, chopping off heads. And of course, Arthur and Nick join in the fray. Man, look how rough the inking is on that one. Maybe it's because the end of the series, they were getting a little tired. Doesn't look bad, though. That looks even more Joe Kubert-y. So they realize that it's up to them to save the world. They're going to set those atom bombs off before anyone could, they could contact anyone. They realize, though, it's impossible. There's no way they can get to all 4 atom bombs before they go off. So they realize they have to sink the city. Because if the city, isn't afloat, then Hitler will have no reason to drown the whole world. Didn't really make sense to me, to be honest. It seems like Hitler is he was such a nutbag, nut job that, he would have just taken the whole world down with him if he could have. So I don't know about this plan. But that's what they plan to do. They're going to blow up that artificial island. So they're moving through the base, taking out guards, trying to get to a plane. Some pretty fun action here. Oki saves Arthur's life, because they've been arguing the whole time, but he saves his life, and but Oki's bleeding out. Meanwhile, Sloane is in Hitler's private quarters, and it's weird because she's kind of talking to herself and still kind of contemplating, like, oh man, this isn't what I really wanted. I kind of wish I was still Hitler's girlfriend. But then he says, staring at the end of the world, I thought I would have missed him more, but I don't. Maybe I'm growing up. So at least she's getting better. And then meanwhile, at the window, we see the incident that began the graphic novel, or the series. We see Nick out there. The plane comes at him. And while Sloane is snooping around, she does find the Morpheus's necklace. So apparently that French woman didn't know about it. This Hitler kept it a secret. There really is this very expensive necklace. So kind of back to where we started on page 1, or maybe page 10. Nick is falling to his supposed death. And Sloane ties a curtain around herself, leaps out, and rescues Nick. She says, people do crazy things when they're in love. And she kisses him. And she basically finally realized, she's always been going for shitty guys. And she realizes that Nick is just a super, super nice guy. And he looks good without a shirt on, too. So she saves him. Our heroes reunite. I guess Oki's okay. He's not going to die because he's piloting them. And they're going to drop the bomb on this island. But the bomb won't go. It won't fall. It's jammed. God, this is such a thing in movies. It seems to happen all the time in books and movies and comics where they try to drop a bomb, but the doors won't open or something will happen. So Nick offers to, do something about it. But Arthur basically pushes him aside and says, I'll do it. You're a young man. I'm a selfish old man. I've had my fun. And he jumps up and down on it. And he dislodges it. And he's basically all ready to have this, great farewell. Goodbye and Godspeed, Nicholas. It's been a hell of a ride. But it's not going to end like that. And Nick grabs him at the last second and rescues him. And we see this giant mushroom cloud. And once again, Nick says cheese and crackers. So they make it. And meanwhile, in an undisclosed location, we see Hitler and Ava Braun. She's trying to console him. The colonel's like, it's all gone. Hitler, Mein Fuhrer, the ice castle, the whole Aryan island. And Hitler says, Colonel Ava, I'd like a moment alone. And he goes in this bunker and you just hear bang. So I guess that's when Hitler blows his brains out. This little epilogue here, this one-page epilogue, almost makes the book for me. I love the way he ends this. It says, today, an uncharted island. And we see all of our heroes. They're all old now. I mean, this is, the early 2000s. They're probably 80 years old or something. And, of course, they've all been rich their whole lives because they sold that necklace. And I guess every year they meet. And they're still kibitzing with each other and kind of arguing and bantering. Arthur does mention how they all rescued the Royal Princess of Madagascar in the 50s. And I was like, oh, man, I want to read that adventure. I want to read a bunch more adventures about these characters. They're all very likable. I really like the repartee between them. And but that would not be. I don't think there's ever been another High Roads. This is another very, I don't know. I see Kyle Baker here more, like old Kyle Baker. And I don't know, even like Jay Lee. So much art. I see so much stuff in here. But the most I see is Kevin Nolan. There's some really great Kevin Nolan-y like faces. We get a little sketchbook of Lionel Francis Yu. Kind of basic stuff. Though I do love this full color drawing of Arthur as his little pint-sized Hitler. And that's it for High Roads. I hope you guys enjoyed watching it. It's a damn fun comic. It's not going to win an Eisner Award or a Harvey, if they still have those. But I got to say, fun as hell. And also the art is outstanding. Even if the story was utter crap, man, this art is just beautiful to look at. And that's everyone. The art, the penciler, the inker, and the colorist. Colorist adds a lot to this. So I hope you enjoyed watching this video, and I also hope to see you here next time at the Herculespetix Academy of Comic Book Studies.